In Scranton, Trump supporter John Basiliga is building a new restaurant, and he's slamming President Biden for rising costs.
He says his policies are better for middle America or anybody. Just walk around and ask the real people. They'll tell you the exact opposite.
And I wonder, what is your message to Hezbollah and its backer, Iran?
Don't.
John, has President Biden considered maybe beefing up the public Iran posture to be more than just one word?
You're referring to don't.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about...
And they did it anyway.
And let's talk about what we did, Peter. Let's talk about don't and did. Let's talk about Saturday night. He made it clear that he didn't want to see escalation in the region.
And it was.
Let me finish. He added military resources to the region right after October 7th. And then when we had an inkling that this kind of thing was coming, he added even more military resources to the region. More destroyers that were capable of shooting down ballistic missiles, a fighter squadron that was able to shoot down drones. Yes, they fired an unprecedented amount of munitions, but how much of a success did they have, Peter?
We must focus on two urgent priorities: cutting emissions and achieving climate justice. Global emissions must be halved this decade, and that means far more ambitious action to cut carbon pollution by speeding up the shift from fossil fuels to renewable energy, especially in G20 countries, and decarbonizing highest emitting industrial sectors like steel, cement, shipping, and aviation. And I have a special message for fossil fuel producers and their enablers scrambling to expand production and raking in monster profits. If you cannot set a credible course for net zero with 2025 and 2030 targets covering all your operations, you should not be in business.
And as George Springer steps up to the plate, stepping up to the mic as the voice of the New York Yankees, here is John Sterling.
Well, Susan, thank you. And once again, good afternoon, everyone. Very exciting opening day in the Bronx, especially the Yankees coming off with a 6-1 record on the road in two very tough places to play. And we'll see how it goes.
And welcome back to the Unregulated Podcast. This is episode number 178 here on Thursday, April 18th. I'm your co-host and fossil fool, Tom Pyle.
And I'm Mike McKenna, here to tell you that the third time is the charm.
That's an inside reference. All right, so Joe's back in Scranton. The president loves Scranton. He just absolutely loves Scranton.
You know, the
Scranton Joe. But Scranton Joe isn't getting as much love in Scranton as it used to. When you ask the real people what's bothering them. The other thing, I saw a couple of other clips during my research. One where someone asked him, he's like, you know, I've been driving around here and haven't seen too many Biden signs. I've seen a lot of Trump signs. What do you think that means? He's like, you haven't been going to the right neighborhoods, pal. Where are we in Pennsylvania with Joe Biden and Donald Trump? Give me your assessment.
President Biden remains an instigator and a goon. That's where we are. Where are we? Democrats have had a continued erosion in their registration advantage. Right, about 8 years ago, that stood at about 1 million votes. They had 1 million vote registration advantage. I think this morning, as we wake up, they're down to about 265,000 advantage. So, you know, that doesn't sound like a difference maker, but it is in a race that you're going to win or lose by 100,000 votes. Survey data tells you that Trump leads among likely voters in Pennsylvania by a couple, 3 points. And more ominously for the Democrats, Dave McCormick has pretty much erased Bob Casey's lead, and that now is can't be considered anything better than a toss-up at the moment. So I am where I've been on Pennsylvania, cautiously optimistic the entire race. And the funny thing is that the LNG pause is cutting into them in Pennsylvania, and all their bellwether on that is that John Fetterman is kind of tacking to the middle, right? He senses that the state is moving under his feet too.
So President Biden has defiantly told Iran, don't, and not satisfied with that. Peter Doocy asks, what's his Kirby, our buddy Kirby, if he's planning on elaborating his position on Iran anytime soon beyond the one word.
Yeah, can you give a guy $10 billion and then tell him not to spend it? I don't quite understand that.
Yeah.
Don't. Here's $10 billion. Don't spend it.
And then Kirby's like, let's talk about what we did. Okay, Peter. Let's talk about what we did. What we did was, delay our response to Israel's request for more weaponry. And then we finally gave it to them. Yeah, sure, they bombed the hell out of Israel, but, I wouldn't call it an overwhelming success in any way.
I'll tell you what.
And these guys we're going to talk a little bit about this whole thing later in the episode, but these guys are they're really creating a whole set of precedents here that are not good for this country, but we'll get into that.
I tell you what, they're probably popular in high school, man. It's just, well, when I say don't, what I really mean is just keep asking me, and eventually I say yeah, or it's kind of a different way to approach the world.
Yeah. If everything is poll driven, this election, the autopsy in this election will confirm that your theory that this is if they can win this election, this will be the last such election with this current coalition of Democrats.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it.
And you, sir, are a fossil fool. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
Is that who that was?
Yes. If you cannot set a credible course for net zero, you should not be in business, you fossil fools.
Yeah. So, first off, I guarantee you.
So wait a minute. He 2025, and if you don't set your goals for 2025 and 2030, you should not be in business. Does he realize he is a salmon swimming upstream? Everybody is extending their quote unquote net zero by some countries now. I think I saw producer. Did you find that article about, was it Scotland?
Scotland. Yeah. They got
Scotland said, you know what? I'm not doing any of this.
Yeah, they I've said this now a dozen times, right? The Chinese showed the way. We're just taking off the year. We're definitely going to have that goal. Definitely. We're just not going to put a year on it.
So my buddy Lou and I talked the other day, and he asked me, how does this end? And this is how it ends. It's like, it's just these drip, drip, drip announcements that we're going to reconsider that. And we'll get back to you later.
Well, the bad guys are stuck, right? They can't call anybody out because it'll make it obvious. And, so they're stuck. They don't know what to do. You can tell they don't know what to do because they haven't attacked anybody on it. It's kind of fun to watch them squirm around. And the thing is, with each person and country that does it, each company and country that does it, makes it easier for the next guy to do it.
Yeah.
So
just a couple of bullets from that article, the BBC. Scottish government is ditching its flagship target of reducing GHG emissions by 75% by 2030. The goal by 2045 now will remain. But BBC Scotland News understands the government's annual climate targets could also go. Ministers have missed 8 of the last 12 annual targets and have been told that reaching a 75% milestone by the end of the decade is unachievable. So
I don't even know what that means.
That's how it ends, Blue. It ends with a whimper. It doesn't end.
It's totally achievable. You just don't want to achieve it. I understand. You should sack up and just get rid of the whole thing.
Big news in Yankees sports this week. John Sterling abruptly calls it quits.
Yeah, I'm kind of pissed about that.
His last home game was last week, and he will be honored on Saturday at Yankee Stadium. I played the I thank you, Susan. There are so many home run calls. You just can't, there are too many of them. So
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings about it.
I don't have mixed feelings about it. I have one feeling about it. I can't believe he didn't take Susan Waldman with him. What the hell?
I don't know how much longer she's going to last.
Oh, good Lord. The fact that she's even been in the booth. Come on. The fact that she's been, we literally, between the two of them, the Yankees have had the worst radio broadcasting team for 20 years. I'm like, how is that even possible?
It's not that bad.
Oh, Tom, come on.
It's not. Maybe I'm feeling nostalgic now.
I was going to say.
What I love about him, his age is showing. He's like, it'll whatever happens will happen. Or you can't. You can't predict everything. You can't predict. That's baseball, Susan. That's baseball.
Yeah, that's what happens when you have a couple of pops before each game. Come on.
Well, a wise friend of ours, in an exchange with another friend of ours, who was speculating as to whether it was health or whatnot, said maybe it was just his time. And that is clearly what his posturing was. He said, I've been on the air since 1960, and I'm tired.
Yeah, I don't blame him. It's you fly all over the country, you call these games. It's a tough job. It's like digging coal, man. Come on.
4 years old, though. You got to give him credit. So.
I don't, and I'm not sure I'm going to.
Okay, whatever. All right, any announcements today?
Yeah, Susan Waldman remains in the booth in Yankee Stadium, so everything's not well.
By the way, all the win losses from the teams we follow are leveling out. Your precious Tigers producer are now close to 500.
Right, they're on a path to win 80 games.
So, and
he's pretending he doesn't hear me.
The over/under in the sportsbook is 80.5.
The over/under in the sportsbook is 80.5. But we don't care about the sportsbook on this here show. We care about the predictions we made. Go ahead.
That's it.
I'm going to say the Yankees are on track to win 104 games, which okay, maybe might happen.
I'm just surprised no one's on the artist formerly known as the DL. Okay, I have one announcement. I wanted to wish a happy belated birthday to my cousin and longtime listener, April. I am so sorry that I missed your birthday on the 14th. Please accept my apologies. And please come visit us soon, April. And you can be a guest on the show. How about that?
You can't be. By the way, it's Tom's birthday tomorrow. Just everybody.
You already did that last week.
I did it. I'm doing it again.
Yeah, I know. Oh, and thanks, Pia, for the meter. You know what I'm talking about, although she doesn't listen. So
the meter?
Yeah, I got a cool meat temperature probe.
That sounds awesome. Sounds like something one might avoid in a hospital.
No. It's like the latest and greatest. It's for my Kamado Joe, which, by the way, you can pay us for that plug for meter and Kamado Joe.
What do you have? Well, we need to take the meter. What is it? The meter what?
Meter 2. We have to
take the meter 2 test before we can say definitively what it is.
All right, what happened today in 1506?
In 1506, this would be what? Henry, right? Henry the Eighth becomes King of England.
No, I'm sure something happened that involved kings and whatnot. But on this day, Pope Julius II laid the first stone
in the Sistine Chapel in St. Peter's, at St. Peter's.
Yes, sir.
St. Peter's and
New
Paul's.
St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City.
St. Peter's and St. Paul.
St. Peter's.
And St. Paul. That's actually the name of the basilica is St. Peter's and St. Paul.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, poor St. Paul always gets
St. Paul got the shaft.
He's like, hey, the hell with you.
But St. Peter is buried below the basilica, correct?
We're not really sure of that. There
There are more recent accounts that conclude that he is.
They've been digging around. They've been digging around for about 15 years now, trying to make sure of that. They've yet to definitively say it. How about if I say it that way?
Got it. Well, this happened in 1521. Which is it's along the lines of religion.
Martin Luther nailed his 1998 theses to the church in whatever town that was.
Well, this is where he
the Diet of Worms. This was the Diet of Worms. Yeah. 1521.
You're good, man. Good. Martin Luther, the chief catalyst, if that's what we want to call him, of Protestantism, defies the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V by refusing to recant his writings.
Whoa.
Had been called to Worms, Germany, to appear before the Diet, which is an assembly of the Holy Roman Empire, to answer charges of heresy.
Well, I was going to say we don't really call him a catalyst where I'm from. We call him a heretic because that's what he was.
Exactly.
That's what he was. Ladies and gentlemen, play for the team.
We're moving on.
Play for the team. You don't play for the team. There's no third option.
1906. You should probably recognize 1906.
Babe Ruth was born.
No, this was the day of the Great San Francisco earthquake.
Really?
Estimated 8.0 on the Richter scale, killing 3,000, toppling numerous buildings. Obviously, a slip of the San Andreas Fault, over 275 miles long, and the shock waves could be felt from southern Oregon all the way to Los Angeles.
Wow. I didn't realize it was in April. I didn't know when it was. Okay.
Yeah. It took over a week to extinguish all the fires, and 30,000 buildings were destroyed. So, and this was an equally unfun thing that happened in 1983. This happened in 1983.
An equally unfun thing. San Francisco earthquake. An equally unfun thing.
That could be the subject of the show. I was thinking fossil fuels, but equally unfun.
What equally unfun thing? What could be equally unfun to the San Francisco earthquake?
On this day, a suicide bomber destroyed
the Oklahoma
US
City
embassy in Beirut.
Oh, in Beirut. In 83. Sure.
Yes, sir.
242 Marines, right?
Killing 63 and 17 Americans.
63? I thought that was a bigger death toll than that.
Well, that's what the book said.
No, I'm not going to argue. I thought it was.
I'm
thinking about the Marine barracks.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Different thing.
About this.
Different
this
thing.
was the
Yes.
embassy.
Sorry.
Okay, so this was just not a really good day. 3 people died on this day in history. Can you guess who in 1945?
Franklin Roosevelt.
No, it was a journalist.
Walter Winchell.
No, it was a World War II journalist.
Ernie Pyle.
Yes, sir. On this day, World War II journalist, and not related to Tom Pyle, Ernie Pyle, America's most popular war correspondent, was killed by Japanese machine gun fire on the island of Lashima in the Pacific.
Yeah.
In 2012, this gentleman passed away, and I often refer to you as him pre-certain condition.
Dick Clark, you're a terrible person.
Mike McKenna is the Dick Clark pre-stroke in my world, man. He never ages, this guy.
The Dick Clark of political operatives.
Dick Clark pre-stroke. Dick Clark had a long and illustrious career, TV personality and producer, best known for hosting American Bandstand, a hugely influential music and dance show that ran from 1957 to 1989.
We're gonna stop in a Philadelphia way. We're on Bandstand.
And then, of course, he ended up hosting the New Year's Rockin' Eve on ABC and was sort of edged out by a younger, more handsome fella Who was that guy that took it? Seacrest, right? Ryan Seacrest. Is that
man.
it?
Yeah.
And
I think I don't watch that stuff.
Dick Clark did have a stroke that really altered his ability to perform, and then ultimately passed away at the age of 82. And lastly, on this day in 2018, a beloved First Lady at the age of 92.
Nancy Reagan.
Nope.
Rosalind Carter.
Barbara Bush. Barbara Bush died on this day in 2018. So, all right, let's play a clip. Uncle Boozy. Let's play the clip and let's talk about it.
Back when D-Day occurred, and on Sunday, the next day, my mother's 4 brothers all went down to the recruiting station and joined the military. Every one of them volunteered. And my uncle, they called him Ambrose, they called him Bozy. My Uncle Bozy was a hell of an athlete, they tell me, when he was a kid. And he became an Army Air Corps before the Air Force came along. He flew those single-engine planes as reconnaissance over war zones. And he got shot down in New Guinea. And they never found the body because there were a lot of cannibals for real in that part of New Guinea. And then my son volunteered to go to Iraq for a year, and he came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. And they gave, like many of you, risked your lives, and you know people who gave their lives to the country. They're heroes. But one of the things that as I was doing that today, I was reminded of what my opponent said in Paris not too long ago. They asked him to go visit American grave sites. He said no, he wouldn't do it because they were all suckers and losers. I'm not making that up. Staff who listened acknowledged it today. Suckers and losers. That man doesn't deserve to have been the commander-in-chief for my son.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
We want to start, or do you want me to start?
I just want to point out that there's actually never been any corroboration of that fabrication that Trump said that.
The suckers and losers?
Yeah. There's been zero corroboration of that. It's John Kelly said it once, and I'm not sure John Kelly was truthful about it. And the other thing is that, I know the other thing I think is wrong, but I need to check. I don't believe that Beau Biden came back with brain cancer. I think he developed it later on. He did not die as a result of combat wounds. That's the important thing to know. And the last thing I would point out, and this kind of always bothers me about this, Joe Biden's always taking credit for everybody else. I notice he didn't go. He didn't sign up. He could have gone to Vietnam.
Exactly.
I mean, dude, if you're all that concerned about it, walk on down, join the Marines, go off to Da Nang, enjoy your 13 months.
Okay, I got a couple more, and you hit on a few of them. And suckers and losers, by the way, along the lines of they're fine people. I mean, his entire sort of framework for why he got into this race is all based on.
Got into this race because he's been pointed towards it since he was about 12 years old.
Exactly. D-Day was on a Tuesday, not a Sunday. His uncles did not join the military on D-Day because Uncle Boozy died 2 months prior. He was not a pilot, nor was he shot down. He was a courier, and at that point, a passenger on a bomber.
He wasn't a pilot?
No.
Oh, man. That seems like an important fact to screw up.
The plane was forced to ditch in the ocean off the north coast of New Guinea, where there may have been cannibals.
He was eaten by cannibals or sharks.
Middle of the ocean. And, of course, I have the source is the Defense POW MIA accounting agency, which explains all of this. So
fantastic.
So this... Okay, it's too
really fantastic for words.
Insane. So, And by the way, in doing my research, I came across an article in Newsweek where George H.W. Bush, ironically, claims that he narrowly avoided being eaten by cannibals.
What is it with these guys? I mean, at least President Bush kind of earned it.
You
right?
know when he ejected, right?
Yeah. He wound up in a sea.
So, yeah. So he basically claimed that Bush realized he was separated from others. He found a life raft, carried him towards Chickajima, and began pedaling in the opposite direction.
I bet he did.
Yeah. Anyway, so all right, who's that?
That is an honored.
Who's joining us? I'm not in the studio this week. Who just walked in? Because I don't recognize the guy.
Honored guest, one of our earliest fans, and a person who listens to us while haying the.
I believe we referenced him a few times.
Haying the fields, more than a couple of his. Also, for purposes of Washingtonians, a former chief of staff to a United States senator, and a guy who was careless enough to let us drag him into transition in 2016, and then the Department of Agriculture afterwards, Brian Klippenstein. Say hi, Brian.
Hello. Hi, Tom. Happy birthday. I brought a pass.
He bought alcohol I'm going to take, just so you know.
You just leave it on my desk.
A Dalwhinnie and a red breast.
There's no, that's not.
I love that. Thank you.
That's not surviving, so don't get excited. See you now.
I'm in next week, so I'm in the studio next week.
Long gone by next week.
We're gonna drink. We're gonna have an episode where we're drinking as well. Uncle Boozy is gonna be.
Yeah, because if you think about what we need, it's a little less restraint.
The Irish whiskey I see is authentic because it has a Joe Biden signature on it.
Oh, good. Good. Now feel free to join us and chime in on any of the excitement that I've prepared for us this week.
Okay.
I'm prepared to.
I'm already making him late for lunch, just so you know. So
I have no schedule. It's fun to watch you guys in action, and I enjoy your programming. Tom, I'm a loyal Chiefs fan, and I'm an Aggie who is forced to support ethanol against my will.
I know we've actually know each other. It's just been a very long time since we've seen each other.
Yeah.
We're all veterans of Capitol Hill these days, like major veterans now. Like
live to tell about it. Back when you knew where the Office of Ledge Counsel was.
That's right. All right, so time for a Menendez update.
Yeah, our favorite. He looks like he's going to throw his wife push his wife onto the bus.
So I can't use the word, but immediately when I saw this, I thought of Marion Barry.
Yes.
Okay.
Ironically enough, you know where that happened.
Yeah, right around the corner.
Right next door in the Madison Hotel. Yep. Yeah. Go ahead.
Anyhow, so this is from the New York Times. Senator Menendez, charged in bribery scheme, may blame his wife. According to newly unsealed documents, Senator Robert Menendez may testify that Nadine Menendez hid information from him, leading him to believe that, quote unquote, nothing unlawful was taking place.
He is such a terrible person. He is so bad.
Oh my!
He's so bad that his Democratic colleagues dislike him.
I was gonna say he's not even the D's want him.
Schumer refused to tell him to quit, which is actually remarkable if you think about the Democrats, how they form a firewall around their own.
The gold bars. I'm like, unless you're in that racket, who the hell's got gold bars sitting around their house? It's not shady at all. It's the wife's fault.
So anyway, I was in my research. I immediately thought of Marion Barry and his famous line in the video surveillance.
The young lady set me up.
This is a family-friendly show, so I'll say the young lady set me up.
The witch.
The witch.
Now, okay, so when I was rereading
The Boogaloo set me up.
When I was rereading some of the Marion Barry stuff, this occurred. This I didn't either misremembered or didn't know and almost spit out my coffee or my bourbon. I'm not sure which when I was reading it. What's your charge again? He asked an agent at another point in the tape. Told it's cocaine possession. He last possession. With what intent to use that little bit, that little speck? Everybody heard that, right? Asked DC Police Chief James Pollock of the Internal Affairs Division. After the arrest, Barry is asked if he would like medical attention. Barry refuses, but says, "You mind if I have a quick drink?" "No, we can't let you do that," Pollock replies.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. This opinion is unpopular, but I'm gonna say it anyway. This town was a lot better when Marion Barry was the mayor. It was a lot better.
He was the mayor for a very long time. I would say that the was it Williams,
the guy who preceded him?
Anthony Williams.
Anthony Williams followed after him, yeah.
I think he did a pretty good job.
No.
I mean, it wasn't nearly as fun.
Yeah, no.
But I think in terms of managing the district, I think he did a better job.
Negative. Marion Barry completely understood Washington, D.C. He understood two things about it. He understood that the real estate developers need to run this town, and he understood that the tourists were super important. I remember, I think it was 89, 88, 87, one of the terrible years where the crack wars were going on, and there were like 1,100 homicides.
Of which he was a participant.
Sure, there were like 1,100 homicides in 1 year. And they asked Marion Barry. They called him and said, "Hey, do you have any problem? Is this a problem?" And I'll never forget the answer, the most epic answer in the history of American politics. Marion Barry said, "Unless I got white tourists getting shot, I don't really have a crime problem." I was just like, wow. It's like he knew who voted him in office. He really did. He understood his constituency. I dug him totally. I miss him. I really do.
Okay.
You know what? He's probably just as bad as Menendez, but he's a hell of a lot more fun, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. This is amazing. I wonder how things are in the Menendez household these days.
You guys remind me of P.J. O'Rourke uttered one of his many famous lines. He said that Marion Barry got himself in trouble because he took drugs and his constituents wanted him back.
You remember he didn't file his taxes too for like 10 years.
See, that's the kind of thing. I will make an observation that is unable to be falsified. So I'm going to make it. Trump is president and Marion Barry is mayor of Washington. I think they'd get along fairly well.
Hell yeah, they would.
They both understand the racket completely.
Yeah. Well, they're both absolutely.
Anyway,
they're both complete characters. All right, you sent me this. This from our friends Jen and Jen at Bloomberg. White House renews internal talks on invoking climate emergency.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me just say this really quickly because I know Tom's going to want to actually read the story to you. The important takeaway from this story is that I am a god. All right, go ahead, Tom.
Okay, whatever. You pick what? Q2?
a year and a half ago, I was asked, hey, a friend of ours asked me, hey, when is this climate emergency stuff going to get real? I'm like, yeah, probably the second quarter of 2024. And here we are, right inside the second quarter of 2024.
On the heels of the LNG, quote, pause, unquote. White House officials have renewed discussions about potentially declaring a national climate emergency, an unprecedented step that could unlock federal powers to stifle oil development, as if he hasn't already done more than 200 things to do just that. Top advisors to the president have recently resumed talks about the merits of such a move, which could be used to curtail exports, suspend offshore drilling, and curb greenhouse gas emissions, according to people familiar, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So, obviously, it's symbolic. There's nothing more that they potentially could do that they aren't already doing, many of which is with shaky legislative authority at best. So, is this another attempt to go after the Utes?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. Like you say, what's the worst that's going to happen? He's going to get bounced by a court somewhere, and I don't know. Okay, first off, the natural moment to announce this would be Monday, right? The 22nd. I think they're also going to announce a bunch of EPA rules on Monday, right? They're going to announce the 111D, I think, and probably the effluent limitation guidelines, and maybe MATS even. I don't understand if they would need something to announce with a climate emergency, right? They would have to do something, and I don't know what they would do that they're not already doing.
Yeah, the Gens claim they could pause crude exports.
Yeah, that's really disruptive to the economy, And truthfully, they haven't paused LNG exports. They've just paused LNG license, the granting of LNG licenses.
Yeah.
The one thing this administration seems to be really reluctant to do is to, do anything that's going to damage the economy, anything overt that's going to damage the economy. They're perfectly happy running up, lots of bills and then running out on them. But I don't know. I'm sure John Podesta's sitting in his office thinking about this question right now. Like, what are we going to do if we launch on this thing? What two things are we going to announce along with it, kind of thing?
Yeah. So the head of the Sunrise movement says, if Biden wants to win the youth vote, he needs to take forceful action on climate change. And so I discovered this poll. This came out Emerson College.
Yeah.
On April 16th and 17th, Donald Trump has taken a lead over Joe Biden with 46% of the vote compared to 43. 1,308 people with a margin of error of 2.6. Slight decrease in support for Biden since the last poll. Trump also maintains leading key swing states on a number of issues. So, so the youth vote is starting to migrate to Trump, and so this, I think, may be an attempt to try to stem that. But at the same time, the iron law of climate change is firm. The Wall Street Journal reported, this was last week, Biden is spending $1 trillion to fight climate change. Voters don't care.
Yeah.
Biden campaign, a collection of progressive groups are trying to change that. They believe the president's record on climate change can boost his popularity with young voters. The strategy is risky because climate has never been a priority with voters. Sound familiar? And it is unclear whether climate policies could reverse the deep skepticism many young people feel towards Biden. Recent Wall Street Journal polls have found that Biden's support among young people is shrinking compared with 2020, amid concerns about his age and support for Israel's war against Hamas.
Yeah, I didn't, and there it is, right? There's the last one. It's really what's going on, right? The young people who are going to vote, if they're going to have problems with Biden, it's over that war. It's not over climate change. Let's level set for a second, right? Folks under the age of 25 are going to vote for Biden probably by plus 20. It's going to look like 55-35. The tricky thing is the other 10% is going to go for RFK, and that's a huge problem, right? And
It depends on how many ballots he gets on and where.
I think he'll probably be on enough that it'll.
If he gets on Michigan, I'll take that.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen, right? That's how the vote's going to break, I think. And the other thing is that it's been a steady and slow erosion. There's like something. He just like doesn't connect, and climate's not going to solve it. Because you know what? If you're a climate voter, guess what? you're voting for Biden already.
Right?
That's right. You know, this idea like somehow they're going to be more enthusiastic. That's
maybe
nonsense.
they'll vote twice.
Yeah, that's nonsense. So anyway,
sorry. All right. So yeah, Roger Pielke's iron law of climate change holds pretty firm. I mean, economy trumps climate every time, right?
Well, yeah. So. I mean, but look. I mean, the other thing is, like I said, this war in the Middle East. You're asking people. The smart ones who can read now know we're on both sides of the war. The dopey ones who don't, just sort of see it like, why are we sending money to people to kill civilians? You know what? Forget who started it. That's where we are now. We're sending money to the Israelis to kill Palestinian civilians. It's not like a happy thing, right?
Yeah.
And if you're 20 years old, you're not all that excited about it, and you're not jaded yet, so you're not like, this kind of shit happens stuff happens all the time. It's like, this is a thing. This is a bad thing. This is not a good thing. I do not want my tax money used to kill civilians, which I hate to be that person, is a completely reasonable thing not to want.
It is reasonable, and I was going to wait on this, but I'm going to play this clip so we can keep talking about this very issue.
Sure.
Hold on.
And I made it clear to Israelis, don't move on Haifa. It's just not, I mean, anyway, I just...
Don't move on Haifa.
Yeah, why would he, I mean, what...
There's a lot to unpack with this.
Don't move on Haifa. Yeah, don't move to Haifa. But meanwhile, I'm still going to sold up the Congress for $14 billion so you guys can kill other people other places.
First of all, Haifa's in Israel.
No, I get it. But he meant Rafah, I assume.
He meant Rafah. But the point is that it reminds us of the fact that he's 81 years old and his faculties are limited. The other thing is that it in the anyway is this thing that is his it's a tick, right? When he knows that he is lost, he stops and says anyway.
Yes, you are correct. That is a verbal tick. Thank you.
And the other thing is that what Israel, that's nice. Yeah. Close. Sorry, I got distracted by a visual image there.
As close as you get.
The thing about Israel, the whole thing that bothers me about this is that we still have 5 hostages.
Yeah.
No one ever talks about the fact that we have hostages. Okay. The other thing that bothers me about this is these bombs were launched on Iranian soil, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is unprecedented, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
So these guys, because they're trying to win an election, are completely upending all of our relationships and all of the things that our positions have been in Israel. In the Middle East. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be revisited and reviewed from time to time, but they are essentially letting this happen because of what we just described earlier about the margins that he needs to collect on election day.
Yeah, I mean, this is a complicated mess. And go ahead, Brian.
Then you get in the mind of the liberal where he says, "Hey, I told them not to move on X." As if he's bragging that he's on the right side of the issue, but what he's bragging about is being weak, because as soon as after he says don't move on X or Y, they move on them. Just before Putin went into the Ukraine, he said, "Well, I'll let it be essentially if it's just a quote minor incursion." Remember that? Remember April Gillespie with George Herbert Walker Bush, who got pulled through a knothole because they said she encouraged Saddam's invasion
to go invade Kuwait. Yeah.
And Biden does the same thing. It's something Republicans don't talk about, which I think is malpractice. But Biden essentially green-lighted an incursion into Ukraine. We're good enough not to remind everyone of that.
Just to piggyback on that, he's coddling what has arguably been our enemies, and he's bragging, like you said, about finger wagging at our staunchest ally in the Middle East, Israel. So this is a complete upending of our entire Middle East posture, and he's fumbling around it. It's very bothersome to me. So, all right, I got one from California.
Yeah.
This is I have two sources. So just so our listeners don't think that we just pull our stuff from Fox News. This is from Orange County Register. California sues Huntington Beach over voter ID measure.
Yeah, I saw this.
Lawsuit seeks to invalidate charter amendment recently passed by voters. All right, so the OC Register piece, California's AG Rob Bonta, it is violative of California state election law, undermines that process, and threatens the constitutionally protected right to vote. Okay, what is it that does all that? A voter ID measure that passed by the voters that asks residents to present proof of identification when voting in at-person polling locations.
I think we all know having driver's licenses are racists. Isn't that right? Voter ID.
The lawsuit filed in Orange County Superior Court is seeking to a court order to invalidate the charter amendment. Now, I also pulled this from an outfit called Democracy Docket. You can imagine just what that is.
Wow.
Who'd they shake down to pay those bills?
Seriously, man. Democracy Docket. Yeah.
Rob Bonta, California State Secretary of State Shirley Weber filed a lawsuit against the coastal city of Huntington Beach over a voter ID ballot initiative. Voters in Huntington approved the measure on March 5th. Requires all residents who want to cast a ballot to show ID. The right to freely cast your vote is the foundation of our democracy, and Huntington Beach's voter ID policy flies in the face of this principle, Bonta said. But the reason I brought this up was the right-wing push for voter ID laws has increased in recent years, based on disinformation and conspiracy theories that non-citizens and other ineligible voters are casting ballots en masse in the last few election cycles. But the reality is that voter fraud is extraordinarily rare, and numerous reports and data show that such voter ID laws disenfranchise tens of thousands of voters, disproportionately affecting voters from marginalized communities.
Man, I knew they were going to get that word in there, marginalized. Damn it. You know what?
Is that a marginalized
suing
community?
A city for wanting for requiring a driver's license or some form of ID simply to prove that they are who they say they are when they are voting.
I agree. I got to be honest with you, to Brian's point, that whole Orange County thing, man, a whole community full of marginalized people. I mean, come on, man.
They can walk in with their chauffeurs to driver's licenses, perhaps. Yacht club pass.
Honey, I'm from Huntington Beach and I'm marginalized. I mean, think about how often you hear that sentence.
So contrast that with the Sunshine State of Florida, which has remarkably efficient elections that are recorded on time. They have early voting. They have all kinds of the stuff that the Democrats are pushing, and they have voter ID. And there are nary a problem in the state of Florida. But I could be just a right-wing extremist.
You are, in fact, a right-wing extremist who at one time tried to destroy the Florida electoral system. So don't give me this nonsense.
Stop the vote. Stop the fraud.
Tom, it's also the nature of it is so condescending, and we got a piece of it out where we live in the rural areas. When several years ago, the distinguished vice president indicated that we should do some of our election work. When there's a proposal that we could do some of our election work via fax, she responded, Well, the rural people don't have fax machines.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
To which we responded, you know, we have some telephones and TVs and everything. You know, running water in the works.
I was going to say flush toilets and everything, man.
You don't even know how to use a fax machine, and how could you? I mean, there might not even be a FedEx office in your little tiny community. So, yeah, these guys are unbelievable.
All right, what else you got?
All right, so I want to play a clip here. Just like that, the impeachment trial of Alejandro Mayorkas is done.
Majority Leader is recognized.
I raise a point of order that impeachment Article 2 does not allege conduct that rises to the level of a high crime or misdemeanor as required under Article 2, Section 4 of the United States Constitution and is therefore unconstitutional.
On this vote, the yeas are 51, the nays are 49. The point of order is well taken. Article 2 falls.
Madam President,
Majority Leader is recognized.
I move to adjourn the impeachment trial of Alejandro N. Mayorkas, sine die, and I ask for the yeas and nays.
First time in history such a thing happened. We knew it was going to happen, but it's still a little shocking. Wow. I know where you feel about impeachment.
I know. It's not about impeachment in general. It's about this specific thing. Look, maybe I should make it clear. I'm a big fan of rule of law. I am a huge fan of rule of law for everybody, and there was nobody made any credible case that this guy had broken a law. That said, you know, is he a tool? Is he a stooge? You know, should he be shot out of a cannon? Yeah, all of that stuff. But that doesn't make a criminal.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a great idea to protect President Biden from his lying, obedient staff anyway.
Yeah,
he's just going to get another one behind him.
This is, you know, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I'm coming to the conclusion that we're part of the dumb party. I really am. I'm not happy about it, but that's where it is. Go ahead, Tom. I know you have a different thought. Let's have it.
I only brought that up mainly because it happened this week and it's rather unprecedented. So I thought our listeners should be aware, but I did it in part because I wanted to go through. We haven't done an immigration jag in a while, and I wanted to go through some numbers, if you don't mind.
Well, before you do that, let me give you two things to think about. Thing one is that was a party line vote. So the next time somebody tries to tell you that Senator Manchin is like, you know, a man of the people and a truth teller and all that stuff, you know, douse that with some nonsense sauce.
I've never said that, and you know how I feel about this. When in doubt, he is with his party.
Of course,
always.
Of course. And my favorite part is that there were 3 or 4 Republicans, Lisa Murkowski, Senator Romney, Senator Collins, who wanted to get up and like deliberate on this a little bit, wanted to, you know, have a couple hours of saying, look, I don't like this guy, right, before they voted with the way they voted. And at the end of the day, Chuck Schumer's like, yeah, why don't you guys just drop dead? We're just going to go ahead and vote, which tells you something about how much he treasures and values their input.
Yeah. Well, on the other side of the equation, the Republicans gave the Democrats, Senate Democrats, a cover vote on the car stuff.
Yeah.
So
I get it. All right. Anyway, sorry, you want to talk about immigration?
About the stupid party. There you go. I mean, literally helping them out with their reelection effort. On the other hand, Schumer told his reliable Republican votes to pound sand. So, but let me just roll through some numbers here. Okay, the Customs Border Protection data shows nearly 190,000 illegal immigrants were encountered attempting to cross the U.S.-Mexico border in March. 37 straight months. Monthly encounters have been higher than even the highest month seen under the previous administration. All right. 8,829 unaccompanied children, 95,000 illegal immigrants encountered from countries outside the Northern Triangle, and Mexico. At least 75 on the terror watch list have been encountered trying to enter the U.S. Ports of entry this fiscal year. 300 in March. The amount of fentanyl seized is the equivalent of roughly 315 million lethal doses. Okay, more than in this year alone, more than 900,000 illegal immigrants were released into the interior of the U.S. and now wait future immigration court dates. I've got many more stats here, but these are staggering numbers.
Let me just give you the one statistic people actually care about. We have about 10 million illegals in the country since Mr. Biden's been president. That's it. That we're heading into 10 million territory pretty quick. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
All right. Anything else on this?
What else is to say, right? I mean, it's the Biden administration doesn't care, and we're busy trying to impeach some dude who's like just a cog in the machine. So I'm not sure. I think what I've always thought about this. There's been one politician in my life who actually cared about this. And who knows if he's going to win re-election or not.
Yeah. Okay.
Governors are all right though. A couple of them, right?
Governors are fine. I mean, we're obviously heading towards some kind of civil war because Texas and now who's the other governor who decided that they wanted to enforce the law themselves? Idaho. Somebody else did what the Texans did. They said, you know what? If you're not going to enforce the law, we're going to enforce it. Which is just, we're having this nullification conversation, which is exactly the conversation we had right before the Civil War. Not right before, but the generation before the Civil War. Right? Can the states basically do what they want? Supreme Court seems to be totally uninterested in enforcing any of this stuff. I mean, they really don't want to touch it. I'm super concerned that this is what we're going to break up over.
What's striking to me that got no detailed press some time ago was the inability of the government to control the border on the one hand, and then you got to watch the incredible state, local, federal cooperation in Martha's Vineyard, where the migrants were on the ground for less than 2 days.
Yeah.
They didn't have time to unpack before a state, local, and federal series of meetings removed those people
Whisked them
and
away.
resettled them behind a fence at a military base in Massachusetts, a big fence where they could be watched and not intrude upon the Cape Codders.
Yeah. I mean, Texas is going to be this Texas thing is going to be a problem. Texas is going to keep pushing this thing because its citizen wants them to push it. Go ahead.
Does this stop if he gets reelected? Like, when does it stop?
It never stops.
When does it stop?
It never stops.
How many do they want? 20 million? Is that the number? Like,
I think you're thinking about it the wrong way, Tom. It's not a numerical thing. It's a philosophical thing. The same progressives who look, the same 10% of the Democratic Party that has their signs on the front yard that say full ceasefire in Gaza now, they don't believe in borders. They believe borders are a remnant of a racist, sexist, patriarchal society, and in the brave new world that we're heading towards, that there won't be borders. So it's not a question of, how many is enough. It's a question of, why do we have borders at all? That's how they're thinking about it. And Team Biden has embraced, like everything else on the progressive side, except for Israel, right? Except for the Israeli thing.
It's not philosophical for the Florida woman who was kidnapped and repeatedly raped by 3 illegals from Guatemala, or a 14-year-old who was raped by a 23-year-old illegal immigrant, or 2 people who were stabbed in the back at a Missouri laundromat by an illegal immigrant, and I could go on and on and
Doesn't matter, man. They're all beneficiaries of the patriarchal society we live in. Look, man, you're not going to have a revolution without breaking some eggs, and that's just that. And the thing is, Republicans, we roam around thinking, everybody thinks like we do on these things. I'm like, no, we do not. They do not. It is as distinct a difference as it is about what you think about the police. If you think the police are an oppressive force that imposes the patriarchy, you're going to be against them. And if you think the cops are just guys trying to keep the peace, you're going to be in favor of them. And it doesn't get any simpler than that.
Any parting words from you, sir? Welcome. Now that you see how the sausage is made, you're probably much less impressed. Wow, that show's really put together. I'm so much, buddy.
I'm witnessing competence, and it's in this town that's a ruby in the dung, Tom. By the way, I thought of you in a gun store weeks ago. I overheard a gun buyer in the store explain to a guy selling AR-15s, trying to sell AR-15s to the store. The guy said, listen, he said, AR-15s are like EVs. Everyone who's going to buy one has got one. He said they're all done. He said you can't give them away. So
that's perfect.
I thought of Tom Pyle.
We should give that to Tesla. See if they take that as an ad campaign.
Yeah. The last thing I'll share, Tom, and this is just observation, which should be obvious or hopefully is, but from the field, these tedious inflation reports that you see reported on the news where it's moving 1/10 or 1/4 of a point or 4/10 one way or the other. Prices are high. That's the news. So if you're purchasing something at the feed store that cost 100% more than it did 2.5 years ago, and then you hear someone rattling on Fox News or CNN about how the inflation rate's actually reduced 0.2%, meaningless. Prices are high, and now we have tariffs. I just disagree with one instance with Mike. This tariffs proposal, to the degree that it might be inflationary, may very well harm them economically and politically, depending on how far it digs in.
Yeah.
Tariffs a tax. There's no. I mean, it's just another form of taxation.
Yeah.
So,
you guys are fabulous. Thanks for letting me crash your party, and I wish you were here to help enjoy the passes that I.
Well, enjoy, but
happy birthday,
because I'm going to be back next week. So,
all right,
it'll be long.
Good to have you. It's always great to interact with our listeners. Even better when they come and sit down and join us. So that was.
You'll never have to prove your tolerance in any other way. Thank you.
We are going to close with one of the more bizarre moments. If you can believe me, if you can believe that there are, of the many bizarre moments from our beloved President Biden on the campaign trail in Pennsylvania.
One day I showed up at off-year convention, and I was in the motel, after the local motel, getting changed after the afternoon session, go back to the evening session. I'd come down with some young activists, a little older than me, but still young activists, who were involved in trying to reform the party. And I was in one of those 8x10 bathrooms, they have, shower, toilet, and a sink, and I got a towel on me and shaving cream, and I hear bam, bam, bam at my door really loudly. And I wonder, what the hell is that? I thought it was this guy, Bob Cunningham, on a radio show, and a couple other guys. So I said, okay, guys. And I walked to the door and opened it up, and standing there was the former governor of the state of Delaware, Albert N. Carville, a big guy, about 6'5", talked at you like this. And the state representative who got defeated 4 years earlier as a Democratic state rep who was retired, and one of the from the family that had more senators appointed than any other family in American history, to the tunnels, a former retired justice and the state chairman. And they said, I'm standing in a towel and shaving cream on my face.
That was one of Biden's rallies.
Was it a rally? Good Lord.
So, juxtapose that with Donald Trump and tells you almost everything you need to know. So Biden in a towel, I don't know. I'm not sure I want to see that.
Yikes.
Anyway, that is it for episode number 178 here. The Unregulated Podcast in the books.
Namaste.